When I finished Semivostok, one of the things I said to you guys was, what do you want to see? So many of you said a canal city. So that is what we're going to be doing today. So we already have Al Samir, which you might have seen in the last episode, which was fixing up some of the traffic. And like I said, we're going to expand Al Samir a little bit more, and it's basically going to be our big canal city because it's been such a huge requested thing the whole time. I don't know, maybe there's a lot of Dutch people who like canals. I don't know. But I think it's a nice change as well to have canals going throughout this whole thing. So this whole island is mostly going to be a city. There is a little bit of a hilly area, and the reason why I made it hilly, because it was flat initially, I made it hilly because if we were to build on the other side, we'd have to buy 2 more tiles of land, which I don't really want to do. We already have enough tiles, so I just made it hilly, so we're not going to build on it. I've already made the whole ground area flat, so it's all the same level. So it's really easy for us to put in these canals and make sure everything is level, make sure everything is at the right height, and it's not going to be flooding everywhere. I didn't like how we had just like one long beach area, so I broke it up by putting in this little, what do you call this, like a little harbor marina wharf area, and the canal will actually feed into this little, let's just call it a, I don't know, an inlet? No, that's not the right word. Whatever you want to call it, because I'm trying to think of like the generic term. Let's just call it like a little harbor. So this little harbor is used to break up the look of the long beach area. And what I haven't told you guys about Al Samir specifically is that one side of the island, it's all of the old buildings, but this part right here where we put in the little harbor is actually going to be the really, well, not super modern, but it's going to be a lot newer than what is already on this island. So we have a lot of the old brick buildings, and where we have the harbor, there's going to be high-rise buildings. It's going to be a bit more modern, but the interesting thing the interesting thing that we'll have to do is a transition from the old to the new, which is going to be interesting. So at the end of the video, I do put in a lot of roads as well. So where all of the roads are, that's going to be where the older areas are, and where the new areas are going to go, I haven't put any of the smaller roads. I only made like the big boulevards and things like that. One thing that is specific for this island is that it's not symmetrical at all. None of the road grids are perfect. They're all very wonky. They're very disorganized. It doesn't look that good when you look at it like this, but once you put in all the buildings, that actually looks really good. And that's something that cities, you should think about when you're designing your city. It often looks better when it's not perfect. It looks more realistic when it's a little bit more wonky, so keep an eye out for that. Now over in this part here, I wanted to put in like a big sea wall barrier. First of all, because we have a lot of the big cruise ships coming in through here, but also, I don't know if I show it, the water level, the water speed is very, very high through this little channel through here. And you'll notice like a lot of the time, it's common to have these types of seawalls that really hold the island or just the land together, instead of it being constantly eroded away, especially from like the wave attenuation, which is the waves caused by like the cruise ships. So I mean, it doesn't really matter in the game, but I think in terms of being realistic, it makes it somewhat a little bit more realistic. Not that it's super realistic, but it does help with the whole look. And also I do plan to put in a bit of a marina, or even just some docks or something like that. And I needed the water to be a little bit calmer, and by putting in this big long seawall actually made the water calmer where we're going to be building like the harbor and areas like that. As you can see, like when I pressed play, the water there was super fast. Even if it's on the slower speed or the faster speed, it's very, very fast. And I don't think that looks good if we're going to put some boats and marinas and things like that. This video, it's really just planning out what we're going to do. We're going to be putting in all of the canals, we're going to be putting in this seawall, and also putting in the main roads, the bypass roads, and some of the smaller roads for the older area. And just quickly, I made the seawall there a little bit higher. Yes, it's gushing in there, but that's alright. We haven't really built anything there yet. We can see the water is pretty fast. I mean, I don't really like that. So I wanted to adjust this canal here, making it at least somewhat symmetrical to the seawall there. How I had it before just didn't sit right with me. And at the moment, yes, it's all flooding because I just pressed play. All the water is gushing in there, like it's coming in from all different directions and it's all hitting each other. Yes, a lot is below sea level. Yes, I know it's below sea level, but I really wanted this area to be very, very close to the water level. I wanted the buildings to be very, very close. I just didn't want there to be a huge gap between the actual building level and the water level. So I think it looks better when it's very, very close, but you have to be careful that you don't change the water level at all, or you make sure that there's no waves that are going to come in here and, you know, make the water gush up over the canal. So right here, I decided it's still a little bit too low. So I put it up by just a couple of clicks. I don't know. What's the term for that? Just upping it a couple little times just to make sure it's not going to continuously flood over. It does look like it's flowing pretty fast there, and yeah, it is flowing pretty fast, but that's still because it's all gushing in there like from the first time. But it does all slow down. I wouldn't like it if it was continuously this fast because that's not cozy. That's not welcoming to me. If it's really fast, it won't look good. You can see the difference between the older area and the newer area. So the newer area was on the the left side there, whereas this older area here, I made the canals a little bit more wonky, a little bit more chaotic. You can see like they kind of just go all over the place, whereas the newer area where the harbor is, you can see there's more straight lines. It's a little bit more thought out. I don't really have like a story for you, like the history of this area. I don't know. It's just, I'm just doing it. I've been thinking about like the building heights of this whole map, and I think I have decided not to make it really, really high. If you think of Semivostok, the buildings in the downtown area were they were really, really big, maybe too big, but I had this fantasy where they just had to be really tall. But for this city, I think for this island, this whole map, sorry, I think if I made the buildings too high, it would kind of take away the whole look. Maybe like just a few random ones, but I'm definitely not going to put in any that were as high as in Semivostok. So maybe the tallest buildings on this whole map will be kind of like the average size buildings that were in Semivostok, like all of the, what do you call them? The apartment buildings, you know, those big long apartment buildings that I put in a lot in Semivostok. Those will probably be like the maximum heights. And even in Beersheba, those taller buildings from the Hong Kong pack, those ones will probably be like the maximum height as well. So I think that's a pretty good one, pretty good height. And like I said, if we go any higher, it's just going to take away from the whole look and the whole vibe that we're going for. Now over here, since this is the newer area, there's going to be a fair amount of high-rise buildings over here. So I wanted to put in some larger roads. So this one is from the 1900 pack, and it is a Pebble Road. It has 2 lanes on either side, so it's got 4 lanes in total. And it's going to be the road that feeds into the newer area, but it's also going to be used as the bypass road that goes around the older areas. So that newer road is going to connect up with the road that we fixed up in the last video. And you can see right here, what I'm doing is basically mapping out where the road connections are. So at this point, I didn't know where I wanted to put the bypass road. I didn't know if I wanted to put it on the little islands or actually just have it on the main part of the island where the hill is. So I was just doing this to map out where they all go and just think, what do I want to do? But what we end up doing is making this bypass road go over these little canals and then connect up over to the other side. And the plan is for this road not to have too many major connections. Like we can have the smaller connections where they can just merge off or on, but I don't want to have big ones where there's traffic lights or there's multiple huge lanes connecting in, because it is supposed to be the bypass road. So at this point, this bypass road, it does continue straight on, but we're also adding in this separate part here where it goes over the canals and it'll go kind of into the more modern areas. Well, actually this area will be kind of the transition area. So it'll still have a lot of the older buildings, but we'll start to see some newer high-rise buildings, some more color coming in, because that's one thing a lot of people have been saying, like the color has been very, very basic. But if you look at the countries that this is based off, a lot of those buildings are very just you know, there's not really a lot of color popping out. So I think in terms of realism, that's pretty straight on. But I do want to break away from the plain colors and go into more brighter things and modern, and make it look really good at nighttime as well. Also, I don't know if I said it, I chose this road because it doesn't have any line markings on it, and I've used this before on my what's it called, one of my other cities that I built off camera. I've showed it a few times, and I used this road, and for some reason the pedestrians, it must encourage pedestrian activity or something, because when we have this whole area going, keep a lookout for how many pedestrians use the road, the sidewalk. It's going to be a lot. I don't know why, but yeah, I don't know why. They just seem to want to walk more, which is fine. I like to see them all walking. I'm actually really excited to do this area. Like, I really want to get into it, but I also want to start planning the downtown for this country as well, and maybe do a few other towns. I do want to do a desert town up in the mountains. So, ooh, that could be interesting. It could be interesting, doing like a lot of palm trees and like just really desert, like no grass or anything. I think that'll be really cool to do, but we have to find a suitable spot, because up there it's quite hilly. It's quite hard to find an area that is suitable, but that's also going to be an interesting thing, because it's hilly, it's not suitable, it's not perfect. So it's going to be a challenge, and it's also going to look really, really good mushed in with all the mountains. So we just cut ahead a bit here. I spent maybe like 10 or 15 minutes off camera just adding in some very, very quick little road connections throughout this area. I'm not going to show all the connections and the roads I do. I'm just showing like a little bit what I actually do and how I do it. So there's really not much thought process. It's more like I just do it, and then however the roads turn out is just how it's going to be. And like I said, for the canals, the same thing applies for the roads. Like, it might look really messy at this point, but once you put in all the buildings and everything and you have cars parked on the side of the road, it looks really, really cool. And the chaotic design actually, I just really love it. It looks really, really good. And that's one thing that we have to keep in mind for the modern area. Even though it is modern, we don't want to do it too structured and too perfect, because then it won't suit the area. So it has to have still a kind of like a crazy layout, but not super crazy like this area or the older, or even like Beersheba. I don't want it to be super crazy. All of the little roads there, that's where the older areas are going to be. And where I stopped, that's going to be the transition area, and then beyond that is going to be the newer areas kind of over here, but we'll save that for another video. And yeah, like I said, I'm super excited. We have some main roads here. You can see cars are already using it, which is really, really cool. And just to encourage them a little bit more, we're going to update the speeds to, what was that, 60 on here, and then I also make it 70 on the bypass road up there. So it should encourage them a little bit more. And yeah, I'm really, really excited to get this whole area done. I haven't even thought about like public transport or anything like that. We're definitely not going to put ferries through the canals. I know someone will say that, put ferries through the canals, but no, we're not going to do that, because the bridges are all too low. And if we were to make bridges high enough, that will look so silly. So no ferries through the canals, okay? We're not doing that. We're not doing that at all. Maybe I'll just pop down a few boat assets on the side of the road. But anyway, that's all for this video. You know what? This island over here, Alsamir, it's kind of looking like a capital, but it's not. It's not the capital, so keep that in mind. But it is looking very, very good, and I can't wait to get into it. We're not going to do super, super high buildings over here, because I don't think that would look good having it on an island kind of just over here. I think that would look really random. So we're saving the high-rise buildings for the actual mainland, but there's still going to be like medium-sized buildings over here. Anyway, that's all from me. Keep a lookout for my next video. It's going to be all about the mods that I'm using for this whole map. A lot of you have been asking for that, so I'll make a video what mods I'm using, how to use them, the 2020 version. So we had the last year's version, and we're going to have this year's. Anyway, thank you guys, and catch ya next time.